Hey everybody, you're listening to The Roving Soul. Look deeper, find meaning, love boldly. Because the best way to find meaning and purpose in life is to go after it.
Craig and Lib, we're coming at you live from the common area of our Airbnb where we're camped out in Metro Manila, waiting for the next assignment. We've been talking today a lot about isolation, even here in a city of 20 million people. Some context to that, when we go back home, we hear a lot about missions and going out on missions, and that missions is over there and that you have to go to a faraway land to be a, quote, missionary. And that's simply not the case, really, is it?
Well, no. I think that we are always on mission, wherever we might be, wherever we find ourselves, whether we are back in Canada or here, whether we are working with YWAM ships with the geographically isolated communities,
Right.
or whether we are out traveling in cabs.
Doing groceries,
Yep,
grabbing a jeepney.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the opportunities to be able to encourage each other exist wherever we go. And I think it's really important to keep that mindset. Scripture tells us that we are to be ready to give an account of the hope that we hold, that we're supposed to be able to share that hope in season and out of season. And, I think that even applies when, I personally am not ready. It's not just a question of whether, the events themselves are there, but moreover, just whether I feel like it or not, whether I've had a bad day, whether you and I have been squabbling. Maybe I've sinned and, I'm not feeling worthy. And yet, I think you pointed out earlier, what was it?
Well, I was saying earlier that Christ has already died for our sins, so that eliminates that problem.
Yeah.
And so we don't have that excuse if we go and confess that sin,
Yeah.
and then continue to listen to his promptings about where he wants us to go, who he wants us to be with or talk to and minister to.
Tell me a little bit more about what that's like for you. Like, what is that? I think sometimes you'll hear Scripture talk about that still small voice.
Right. Well, I remember that one time in Thailand when we went to document an area where there was flooding, and so we were visiting families that were tragically, their homes were lost. They had lots of
that was last fall, and
That's right.
in Chiang Rai, Thailand, and flash floods had hit the mountains and absolutely devastated the riverside communities in
That's right.
Chiang Rai.
Yeah.
Deluge, 6 feet of water, muddy stuff, left a foot or two of muck. Just throughout the whole lower lands and living rooms and kitchens and the whole 9 yards of these people. Yeah.
And so there I was walking the street, and I saw this lady, and we just looked at each other, and somehow there was this prompting, and I can't explain, but I just felt moved to go near her and to chat with her. I didn't speak any Thai. She didn't speak any English, but I put my arm over her shoulder, and I walked the road with her, and I guess she was explaining to me about what happened in Thai, and I just kept nodding and just really felt compassion for her. And in the end, I offered to pray for her, and I just did this, and she said yes, and I prayed for her and her family, and she was saying thank you in her own way, just thanking me, and we didn't need words, but
You were speaking in tongues.
yes, and only God knows what we spoke about.
But I mean, I remember taking photographs of the two of you walking down the road away from me, and there was clearly just a real bond that had been formed as I saw you walking down the road. This lovely old lady, shorter than you were, your arm around her shoulder, and just the two of you really commiserating.
Yes.
It was a powerful thing.
Yeah.
So that still small voice, that seems to happen in different ways to different people at different times. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
So just getting back to the idea that you don't have to go to a far off land in order to be relevant or even serving as a missionary. You could be in Middle America, you could be West Coast Canada, you could be in the far north, or you could be in an isolated island in the South Pacific. Here we are in Metro Manila, population 20 million just in this city alone.
Right.
And yet you had an experience last week, I guess, with a Grab driver.
Oh yes, many experiences with Grab drivers, because here in Manila we don't have a vehicle, and so we always take Grab to get anywhere. And
Now Grab is like Uber.
Uber.
It's a taxi service with an app,
Right.
and you tell them where you are and where you want to go, and they come get you. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, I could get frustrated and annoyed about not having a vehicle, but I've come to enjoy my time with Grab drivers, because it's just my opportunity to ask them questions about their lives, their family, and most of all, their hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
And I found that a lot of them just really, their eyes light up, their faces, their facial expressions change, and they get really excited talking about their dreams and their hopes. And it's, for me, it was so interesting that in that moment they're like transported from being this Grab driver to being part of their dream.
Like more animated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Takes them out of their routine.
Yep.
And-
And in the end, I would normally ask if I could pray for them, and I haven't had anyone refuse. All of them have said yes, and they were very appreciative. Even some Muslims, right? They would appreciate me praying over them. And at one point, I would have a prompting of giving a generous tip, and they would say, "Ma'am, you already paid," and I said, "No, this is for an investment into your dream." And they would just be so, the look on their faces of how somebody had shared their hope and their dream.
Right.
It was just something else to be a part of.
Yeah, and not even so passively, but even actively to be able to, as you've said, invest into
Yes.
their lives in a small way.
Yes.
I remember a time in myself when somebody really ministered to me, didn't use words at all. I had suffered a loss. I think it was actually on the passing of my mom, and was really broken up during a particular moment in a group setting, and I had to just excuse myself and left the building and went outside and get some fresh air. It was winter time. It was cold. It was clear. It was crisp. It's blue skies, and you could see your breath. And I was just drawing that air in and trying to keep it together. And the door opened beside me, and out comes a buddy of mine, Gary Coxon. And Gary came and never said a word. He just came over beside me, leaned against the wall, folded his arms, and we looked off at the horizon, Bastion Mountain across the lake, and just, he never said a word. Didn't put a hand on my shoulder. He didn't say anything. And a good 5 minutes went by, and he looks over at me and he goes, "Are you good?" And I went, "Yep." And he said, "All right then." And he went inside. I walked in behind him, and I mean, he ministered to me in such a deep way, without a word spoken, just simply standing with me, and to know that there's another guy there that cares. So you just don't know, whether you're Walking down the street, you see a beggar and
Like
just
Echo.
a smile. Yeah, there's a little boy that hangs out at the mall just across the street from our office.
He's 12 years old.
Yeah, he's 12, but he's about the size of a 9-year-old because of malnutrition. Good-looking guy, great spirit, a guy that you think has every opportunity in the world, and yet he doesn't. He comes from a pretty rough family situation, and he lives on just the generosity of strangers. I had just walked out of McDonald's. I had a cheeseburger in my bag, and I sat down on the wall and talked with Echo for a little while in what broken Tagalog I could manage. And he and I, together, well, you too, he knows us by name. We've become quite good friends over the last year or so. And I pulled out my little lunch and I ate half a burger, and I knew he was hungry, but he never had his hand out. He never asked. He didn't say anything. And I got halfway through my burger and I just handed it over to him, and he took it without a thought. And it was just like, here I am sitting with this little fella and just just I don't know, talking about the weather, just hearing about how his day's going, learning about how his skin is responding to the sulfur soap that he's now using to clean up the scales and stuff that are on him and such. And yeah, it was just really, really neat to be able to hang out with this little guy and encourage him.
Right.
But you don't plan these things. They're not scripted. They just I think as we make ourselves available, they just kind of happen, don't they?
Yeah. Well, we were on that diving trip 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there was this younger lady who was, I guess she had a bad night, and she was.
Yeah, she was. It was a humble morning. I think she had
Yeah.
probably fallen into her cups the night before. Yeah.
And she confessed later on when we had a longer talk. She said that she wouldn't have been open to any kind of conversation with any stranger
Yeah.
had that not
Let
been
alone a
case.
spiritual conversation.
Yeah, that's right. And so it was very interesting that when she joined the conversation, and she was so interested because she was seeking, she was wanting to know the truth. She's from a church background,
Right.
and just had a very traumatic experience from the church.
It's very
being raised up
controlling.
and fear-based.
Yeah.
Fear-based.
Performance, I think you said earlier.
Yeah, and lots of fear. If you don't do this, then
Right.
do that, then this, all of that stuff. But we had a good heart-to-heart talk, 2 hours long, about what she's been through, and we shared stories, we shared life, and I ended up praying for her, and I don't know where God's gonna lead her, but I know that she's seeking for truth, and I know that when one is seeking the truth, they will find Him. When we talk about isolation, I often think about being alone in a journey, and we've talked about being alone in tragedy with a woman from Thailand. We've talked about
Times of vulnerability with this diver. Yeah.
seeking truth, then
Yeah. Isolated
being
with
alone.
poverty with Echo.
Yeah, and so one journey that's difficult to be in is with one who is dealing with illness like cancer. I have a very dear relative who is going through cancer, and it's so sad because she's not able to talk about what she's going through with her family because she's the strong one in the family, and she can't. They don't want to deal with her sorrow, her suffering, and do not want to hear that part. And so it's very difficult. She is dealing with her illness, and then she's dealing with the isolation of having to walk this journey of sorrow by herself. And so making myself available for that, to hear her out, to even just cry with her and pray with her, is so helpful, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's reminiscent of this verse that has always struck me, that we don't know what kind of impact we're going to have, and we don't know when we'll have those opportunities to be able to be, a positive influence into the lives of others. It's like in Matthew 25, when Jesus is speaking to the disciples and about the times of the end, when there will be sort of an evaluation of people for those who have followed him and those who have not. And he speaks and says, "The king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, to inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundations of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me.' And then the righteous will answer, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or without clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?' And the king will answer them, 'I assure you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me.'" And this is such a powerful thing, that in serving the simplest of situations, we can in fact be ministering to, in essence, Christ himself. What a powerful challenge to be able to look beyond ourselves and to be able to listen to that still small voice and see the needs around us and speak the simplest of things: a smile to a beggar, an extra tip to a taxi driver, a time of just simply quietly listening to the story of another. So many opportunities to be able to bless people, whether we're overseas and abroad, or whether we're just getting out of the car and walking into the grocery store of our own neighborhood. The opportunities to be always on, to be ministering to those in need, to be able to share the love that we have, and to be able to encourage others. What a great and amazing opportunity, what a great call upon us all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like breathing.
Breathing. You want to
like you're breathing,
Yeah.
It's becomes a part of you, part of your.
Okay. Yeah. It's like breathing. But anyway, look, thanks for dialing in and hearing our thoughts, and feel free to comment on your own experiences. When have you been loved upon in a quiet way, or when have you yourselves had an opportunity to be able to speak life into the lives of another, and the life of another? So yeah, stay tuned for more of these podcasts. They'll get a little more polished as we go along. So thanks for listening.